You're live. All right.
You're live.
Apparently I'm live, everyone. I'm just giving my glasses a clean. Welcome, welcome. We'll get this party started in half a minute.
There we are. That's quite the...
Great. I can see now. All right. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Another Monday, another collage jam. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're coping COVID-wise. Hope you're staying safe, wearing your mask when you go out, washing your hands, sanitizing out the wazoo, cleaning all your groceries when they come in, etc., etc., etc. And I hope your spirits are staying up. I'm doing my best to help. Okay, we are getting this party started. Philip is saying, "Oh my God, don't do it." No, it was just it was well in front of my face, but yes, it does look rather alarming. I realize that in retrospect, maybe I won't do that again. So. Anyway, I've got a few little housekeeping things to deal with, and then we'll get collaging, okay? So I want to make mention of a couple of courses that I still have spots available in. I have a course called Creative Stenciling coming up starting Friday, May 15th for 6 weeks. It's in the mornings. All the details are on my website, calhoney.ca. And there are still a very few number of spots available in my next 6-week block of collage explorations, which is on Thursday mornings, and that starts Thursday, May 7th. Again, check my website under online offerings, collage explorations. Excuse me. So what's different about that than what we do here? We go a little more deeply, obviously. I start off with a look at some art history that's usually relevant and or inspiring, hopefully always inspiring, but sometimes usually relevant to what we're doing. We have a set exercise that we do during our live class, which is usually about an hour long that we do the exercise. Then we take a quick look at it. I get you to email what your work in progress. We talk about it as a group, and then I have a longer exercise for you to work on during the week. And there's a private Facebook group, just like there is for this one, where I give feedback. And speaking of feedback on Virtual Collage Jam, you guys are just so cooking that I'm having trouble keeping up. I have to say, I thought I started out, I'm always going to comment, and I might fall off just by the number of amazingly huge number of collages that I'm seeing. That's really great.
You'll look at everything.
I will definitely look at everything, and I will comment as much as I can. But I apologize if I don't get to a comment to every person every week. It's just I'm a victim of our success, which I'm happy to be, because the group is growing, the dialogue is wonderful, the work you're sharing is wonderful. So I'm super excited and grateful and glad that it's being so successful. All right.
Question from Jane.
Okay, I have a couple more things, and then
it's related.
Okay.
Is the May 7th through NPCC?
No. So I have 2 offerings at Nielsen Park through Nielsen Park Creatives, and they're online as well. And well, that was too low. I thought I'd lower my chair a little bit. No, I was just going to get to Nielsen Park, and because they had a bunch of offerings that were free for people 60 and over, both of them are totally full. I'm doing an urban landscapes course and a collage workshop later in June, and they're both full, I'm afraid. I have an offering called with Visual Arts Mississauga on Mondays starting next week.
Also online.
Also online, yes. Everything's online right now, using Zoom, called Exploring Abstraction, and that will be Monday mornings. And I think there's still room in that. So there's room in that, and then the 2 courses that I'm offering on my own through my website, also on Zoom, the stenciling and then the collage explorations. So. All right, so that's that. And because I have you as a captive audience, I'm going to share something that I'm excited about, and I hope you'll be excited about as well. And then we'll get to collaging. Last night on my website, I put up these. These are letter size signs. Those of you who know my work know that I also play with signs. And these are free downloads that you can put up in your windows to show your solidarity and support for the people who are helping people, saving lives, and also just helping us keep safe, because of course, healthcare workers are at the top of the list, right? But there are all these people helping us with our garbage. Can you imagine this without Wi-Fi, without internet? I certainly can't. Drinking water, electricity, all of those things that help us get through, right? I'm getting so many deliveries now, groceries, anything we need, we're trying first and foremost to order it, and only if we have to drive out to get it. And these people are just tirelessly working to help us. Obviously, farmers, right? We need to eat. That nothing changes that way. So I'm very grateful for all the farmers who are helping us, and then the people who are helping get that food from the farm to us. And you know, man, they're frontline workers nowadays, right? So just huge gratitude. Yeah, exactly. And postal workers too, of course. I mean, getting us a bunch of our deliveries and our urgent mail. So so all of these are available on my website. If that's not helpful, there you go. Free of charge. They're a PDF. Each one is a PDF. You can download them. If you look under gallery, it's the first thing. It's called Free COVID support signs. I forget what it's exactly called. And I have a hashtag so that if you put these up in your window or on your front door or somewhere else that's really creative, use the hashtag and post pictures of using them, and then we can all see how each other are using them. The hashtag is hashtag COVID thank you signs, and that's also on the webpage. So please download them, share them freely, send them to friends, send them to my website to get these PDFs, and share them with me with the hashtag. It's, you know, as an artist, I can't treat people. There are so many things I can't do, right? Let's put it that way. I don't have any health training. I don't have any of that. So I wanted, like, the Collage Jam and our online offerings are a way in which to create artistic community, but I also just wanted to show my solidarity and support for everyone else who's helping us get through this. So that's that. Okay, so we have collaging along the theme of diagram today. So I realized, how does one define a diagram? So I Googled it, as one does. So this is the definition of diagram: a simplified drawing showing the appearance, structure, or workings of a schematic representation. So simplified drawing, I think, is that helps us understand either the way something works or how it looks or so on. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I brought to the table, my collage table, that I will be choosing from. So you probably saw this before. I have a whole bunch of these in the basement. I'm still working through the first one. It's got a few holes in it now, but it's a popular mechanics, sorry, do-it-yourself encyclopedia, and SE to ST. So, but it's full of all these lovely retro black and white photographs and tons and tons of these two-color diagrams. Here's a relatively simple one. It looks like how to solder something. But some of the diagrams are more involved. Some of them are beautifully illustrated. Like, as a person who did some illustration in my earlier days, I can really appreciate that this is really well drawn, well lit. It makes it easy for me to understand. And
well, you did technical illustration.
I did some, yeah. For a summer job that I had for a couple of years when I was at Ontario College of Art was doing technical illustration. So I was drawing on Mylar back before anyone knew what it was. and I was drawing car parts, basically exploded diagrams of how to put together Renaults. And it was kind of interesting. We used ellipse templates. We drew with like soft pencils that we had to keep really sharp so that it reproduced strongly. You had to be very careful about erasing any smudges. Yeah, it was interesting. I'm just flipping through. Here's another really a good example of the spine is now starting to fall apart. Excellent. This is how to put siding on a house. So nowadays there is so much photography. Everyone's got a phone, and a lot of the diagrams have been replaced with like how-to photography, like how to explain things, and video. Right now, video is amazing. Like every time I have something that I need to fix nowadays, like, oh, how do I fix this on my car or washing machine or whatever, you name it. I like go to YouTube, and someone, bless them, usually many people, and you get to choose, have put up videos on how to do it, and that's amazing. But sometimes you'll notice that in the definition of diagram is a simplified drawing. Unless you have really good photography and people know how to light things, sometimes you get these murky and like, I really need to see that part clearly, and I can't, right? Diagrams have that ability to edit, right? These are the important things, and we've stripped out the other stuff so that you can just focus on what's important. So that editing aspect.
Try to look in the camera.
Yes. So I have a bin of diagrammatic stuff, or I call it information diagrams. So I don't even know what this is. It's a map of a museum, right? So lots of us go to art galleries and museums. So that's a sort of schematic. A map is a diagram of sorts, right? It's not the real thing. It's a simplified representation of it. So I have lots of maps. What else have I got here? Back from my old cycling days, I have this goes back quite a while, and I love that I've got it in both English and presumably Japanese. Something from my cleats for my cycling shoes, and they've got nice diagrams on them and those interesting characters as well.
Again, look up at the camera.
Yeah. How many of us have dozens of these? Well, I keep them because the IKEA is one of the best sources for interesting diagrams, right? They have perfected the way of communicating to anyone in different languages without words. Kim used to subscribe to woodworking. What was it? The
Canadian Workshop?
Canadian Workshop magazine many years ago. And that the last page in the magazine was something called Wordless Workshop. And it was basically a cartoon diagram thing, how to build something start to finish with no words. And
well, that was actually Family Handyman.
Oh, that was Family
My
Handyman.
other
Okay, sorry. we are an interesting flip-flop of stereotypes. She has always been more interested in woodworking and carpentry and those kind and house renovations and maintenance than I have been. So this is photography, but it's in my file. It's just some pamphlet that came with a workout, resistance bands or something, and it's got this. This is actually kind of a sorry little illustration of the muscles of the body, but not everyone's as good a drawer as you would hope. So those are some of the things I'm going to be looking at and playing with, and I'll probably intersperse them with other stuff, colored paper, photographs, and so on. Anyway, enough on that. I'm going to dive in, and I bet you that Kim has been sitting in the wings very patiently with things to relay to me from you guys. So Kim, what are the peeps saying? I'm just going to push this back so we can see a little bit of what I've got on the go here.
Just remember to look at the green light, dear. That's near where the camera is. Okay, so Diane says, "Hi, Cal. Looking forward to another
Diane.
wild ride." And Lillian is here from Winnipeg.
Hey, Lillian. Yes, we were just emailing this morning. Yeah, welcome aboard. Glad to have you.
She was in one of my summer courses in Halliburton.
Ah, yes.
And Linda is saying hi.
Hi, Linda.
Jane is here.
Yay.
Françoise says
Hi, Françoise.
hi. Mia and I think Kay, is that Sparkle Girl? Is Kay?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Kay. Hi, Mia.
Yeah.
Are some of our regulars.
Yeah.
Some of you who we saw on Saturday at Kim's virtual studio party. We have too many virtual things going on right now.
Yeah.
So virtual studio party is on Saturday, same time slot at least, 2 to 3:30 on Kim Co's YouTube channel. So I'll have her post a link to that using the word dot.
Okay.
Yeah, in the comments, so you can join that because, you know, this is great, but wouldn't it be nice to have one on Saturday as well? Well, we do with Kim. So.
Mia says, "Love the signs. Can we share these?" And
of
you
course.
didn't answer that.
Yes.
That's
Share.
right.
Like, send the link to my website to your friends, and they can all download them and spread the word far and wide because it's
Social media.
Yes, share it on social media. Share it any which way. I put my name in mouse type at the bottom and my website on each one of them, so there's a credit there. So. And
people can find where
people. So yeah, so if they have one of them and they want more, they can look at it. Oh, I'll go to this website. So I just want them as far and wide as possible, so that the people who are being our heroes right now hear our appreciation for them. That's all. So yeah.
Valerie says she already downloaded the delivery person one.
Excellent.
Kathleen says hello from London.
Hey, Kathleen.
Alice
Welcome.
says hello.
Yeah.
Cheryl says hello from Coburg. Sorry, I'm missing the placing here.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
Alice adds great signs.
Oh, thank you.
Marcia says hi.
Hey, Marcia. Welcome.
Kathleen says great signs. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. No, I just want them out there as much as possible, just because we all feel that way, right? And, you know, I have a graphic design background, so doing those is relatively easy for me. And they're designed to be able to be seen at a distance. That's like a sign, right? But I've also seen tons online of like homemade stuff that just like warms your heart, right? So I think there's anything and everything that should be out there as much as possible. You know, kids' drawings in windows. The guy who renovated our steps lives a few blocks away, and I should go take a picture of it. He's got on his fence something he cut out of wood. He cut out all the letters, like we're all in this together with this big red heart, and it's all like, because he's a builder, right? It's all made out of wood, and it's quite beautiful. It has a lovely folk art feeling, and so I just wanted to add another option.
Yeah. Annie says, you two help our mental health. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Annie. That's the goal, right? I mean, as I said, I can't, I'm not a doctor, but I can maybe at least help with the spirit side of it, right?
Yep.
So.
Rena says, such a lovely gesture. Thank you, Cal.
You are so very welcome, Rena.
Joy says hi.
Hey, Joy.
Cheryl says, those signs are great. Thanks for sharing so we can share with our community.
Yes, and please do put that hashtag and share pictures on social media, because that means any of us can use that hashtag to look for them and find what other people have done. So, you know, if you do it in Coburg and someone does it in BC, and then a whole bunch of people in the GTA, presumably, and then we can see, oh, look, I never thought of like putting it way up on the second floor like that or whatever. So anywhere where it'll be seen, right? And the good thing is, even if it's maybe up on the second floor in the back window where maybe not that many people coming to your house will see it, if you take a photograph of it, then it's seen online, right? So Mira and Marie say hi. Hello, Mira.
And Marie.
Marie. Sorry, I got my M's.
Yeah, I just thought the two names were nice.
Yeah. A literal, yes.
Yeah.
And Cal's mouth was having trouble with that for a moment there.
And Anne says hi.
Hello, Anne.
As does Irene and Adele.
Wow, Irene, Adele, hello.
Winnie says hi. Glad to be here.
Yay! Yes, thank you, Winnie. Glad to have you along.
Stacy says glad to be here again this week.
Yay, Stacy.
Irene says love your collection of diagrams.
Yeah, I have bins and bins in the garage, and they've been they're a little worse for wear now. But every few months, what I try and do is reorganize them. And so I have like men's and women's magazines, like, you know, hunting and fishing type magazines, and then fashion magazines in one bin, because I find those interesting opposites. And then I have like a whole bunch of geographics, like National and Canadian Geographic and stuff like that. And I have one bin that's dedicated to sort of informational stuff. Like I have a couple of old phone books in there, a typography book. You know, this kind of stuff could be in it as well. And a bunch of these things that I showed you are, I just rifled through that bin and pulled them out. And maps too. I teach the occasional workshop in maps and art, because I love maps and I love putting them in art. So, so that's there are maps in there as well.
Marcia says never would have thought of doing this.
Well, welcome. Beware, it's addictive.
Thanks from Lillian. And Françoise says challenging but interesting and original topic.
Oh, well, I'm glad you find it that way. You have been totally cooking, Françoise. I know you've been making a lot of collages, and they're you and Marina too, like going back and forth. Those of you who don't know, Françoise is one of my students at Nielsen Park and does lovely work. And her daughter is also collaging. And I think, Marina, you're somewhere else. I don't know whether she's with us today, but they've been ping-ponging back and forth. So they will often one will send the other a collage, and then the other one will respond to it, which is another thing you can do. If you find someone you love you love the work of, you could say, hey, would you mind like doing a little back and forth together? That's a great idea, I think. Cut it the wrong size.
Gunta, it's because you're talking.
I'm talking.
Yeah, it's hard. Gunta says hi.
Hi, Gunta.
She's here too. Rebecca says hi.
Hello, Rebecca. Welcome and welcome.
And Susan says hi from Riverdale.
Hey.
Adele asks, is the diagram supposed to teach you something or only as a design piece?
Yes.
Or it depends.
Yeah. Really, that's you could do one of each if they're both interesting to you, or you could just do whichever. You could make a diagram out of other bits, or you could use a diagram. You can use the diagram either just for its visual elements or for its content, or a bit of both, right? Which, that's one of the things I love about art is, for instance, this right here is a diagram of how, I don't even know what that looks like, a hinge in a piece of furniture, and how everything goes together there. But it's also black and green and white and interesting shapes and shapes and textures and colors. And angles, yeah. And gradations, like the gradations done with the lines there is quite beautiful. So I can appreciate that on several different levels. If I were trying to fix my furniture, I'd appreciate its clarity. If I'm looking at it as an artist, I'd be like, oh, interesting shapes and gradations and colors and values. So
there's always content, metaphor, and formal.
Gotta love having a Kim, right? So what was that? Content, metaphor,
and formal qualities.
And formal qualities. And formal qualities meaning like, what color is it? How dark or light is it?
Design.
Design. Yeah, exactly. So
Gunta asks, would a game board like Monopoly be acceptable for this?
Yes. That is a diagram of how to navigate the game, right?
Irene, I think, was having fun with your saying about all the virtual things. So she says, let's play with the word virtual using diagrams.
Okay, let's do that.
She can do that.
Yeah.
Sarah says, I found an old sewing pattern.
Ooh,
Those
yes.
are great.
That's a diagram too, right? It's sort of a diagram you use in some ways, because you do cut it out. But it also shows you what the pieces look like. So it has it's
a diagram for cutting.
It's a diagram for cutting. Yeah, exactly.
Joy says, great resources, Cal. Could use these on the island here.
Right. So Joy's on Salt Spring Island, if I remember correctly now.
Wow.
And was it Halliburton that we took a course? You took a couple of courses with me, I think. The experimental watercolor, I think so. But you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I could.
Don't you think we should be doing courses out there instead?
Yes. Have you got any space, Joy?
Oh, Edith says hello, both of you.
Hi, Edith.
Happy to be with you from
Bienvenue.
France. Yeah, bienvenue. For a new workshop. Kiss and thank you.
Oh, bisous à vous aussi. And that's about the extent of my French, so sorry. It's been atrophying for many years now.
I think Judy was trying to say hi.
Hi, Judy.
Gunta says, I missed the first 11 minutes. Can't wait to see what the signs everyone is talking about. Yeah. So Judy says, hi from Mississauga.
Hi, Judy.
She got it in. Irene says, I arrived a bit late today, so I will need to watch the beginning again to see Cal's signs. How about at the end, you'll...
I'll show them. I'll
show them what...
Especially if Kim helps me to remember to.
Yeah,
just before we end off, I'll show the signs again and just recap briefly.
Joy says, glad to see and hear both of you again. Edith, hello, happy to work again with you from France for this workshop.
Yay.
Kiss and thank you.
Likewise, Edith.
Anne says, different Anne, so great to be back. I've really enjoyed and been inspired with your creative lead over these last weeks.
Oh, I'm glad, Anne. That's it is. I don't even know about the word lead, but
you're the facilitator,
I suppose facilitator is perhaps maybe a better.
Maybe our fearless leader would also qualify. Irene says, your maps and art workshops are excellent.
Oh, bless you, Irene, for giving them a shout out like that. Thank you.
Lillian asks, are you going to add some more classes at Nielsen Park in June or later?
So actually, I don't know.
You'll definitely be offering more independently.
Yes,
so she can.
Yes, I'll be. The courses I have sort of on the slate now that I've talked about take me towards the end of June. And normally Kim and I teach a week or two each, couple of weeks each in Halliburton, which has been called off, but it's conceivable that some courses will be offered virtually, and
one of yours,
Kim's are very medium centric, so they don't suit switching to virtual as well as mine. I think mine could, so I'm not sure whether we'll be doing something that way. So I might be offering something through Halliburton, and I'll definitely be offering at least something during the summer on my own hook through my website. But I don't know about Nielsen yet, Nielsen or BAM yet. So stay tuned.
Watch your website.
Yeah, watch my website. I try and keep everything that I am doing everywhere on that online offerings segment of my website.
Joy says, it depends.
It does. It does. So much depends.
Françoise says, I got 3 or 4 people in France to join us on Monday.
Yay.
One of my friends is also now doing collages long distance with her granddaughter.
Oh, see, now that's really beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Joy says, yes, Cal, from Halliburton.
Right. Okay, I thought so. I think I can picture you still.
It's tough with all the students we teach over the years.
I don't remember everyone. I can't say that I can't pretend to, but
it's not because we don't love you.
No, exactly.
Jane says, so are you using diagrams to create a diagram? My thinking was creating a collage diagram from scratch. Am I off the mark?
No.
Because
it depends. Yes and yes and yes. No. Make a diagram using collage. Make a collage using diagrams. Really?
Bring them together.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you could have a bit of each, right? It's a diagram, but then maybe it's the diagram maybe out of a book, something stops, and then you continue something of your own. In fact, that gives me an idea for something I might try. Thank you.
Lillian says, I'll go to SSI if you are going to do something there. What is SSI?
Salt Spring Island.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because Lillian and Joy are friends.
I noticed that.
Yeah, and yeah, so you guys have between the two of you, you've extended my reach across Canada significantly now, which is lovely. We have a few.
And we'll only go if both of us can teach something.
Yes.
Heather's here. Hi, Cal and Kim.
Hey, Heather.
Thanks so much for this, she says.
Heather
Tushinsky.
Tushinsky. Yes. I never know how to pronounce the TS, but yes, welcome. Yeah, welcome.
Joy, yes, come to Salt Spring. It's sunny today.
Oh, twist my rubber arm.
Mira says, I placed the signs on my tree at the front of the house, and every person who passes by stops to comment about it. That's so great. Seriously.
That's exactly
you,
what
Mira.
I was hoping. Yeah, thank you so much, Mira.
That's so great. Lillian says, Joy and I met in France. We keep coming back to France.
Look at that.
Maybe that's another place.
Salt Spring Island, Winnipeg, and they met in France. We met them in Haliburton, then they moved across the country. I tell you.
They were studying French many, many years ago. Lovely. Oh. Well, Cal and I have never been to France, and we've never been to Salt Spring Island.
Which I have to say has to change.
Yeah.
Because for many years.
For every kind of reason.
Well, Salt Spring Island, I have been to British Columbia a few times. Not enough, I have to say, given how old I am.
Given how much we love British
and yeah, every time we see the mountains, we say, and why is it we live in Ontario again? I can't figure it out. And France, I don't know what's wrong with me. I love food, and I love cycling.
The Tour de France, you've been watching that forever.
I've done huge artworks based on the Tour de France. And you know, I was in my younger days. It was a pseudo competitive cyclist. So why haven't I been to France? No good answer.
Yeah. How many pieces were in your general classification installation?
Oh, yeah, so that's something to check out on my website if you're interested in the Tour de France. I did an installation in 2012 that took up an entire large wall of the station gallery in Whitby, and it was made up of a 10-inch square panel for every rider in the tour that year, which was, I did it about the 2008 tour, and there were 190 riders, I think. So it was a major undertaking, and it
took years.
Yeah, it took me like
3.5
or 4 years to make. So now I do collages that take me a lot less time. What else have we got going on in the comments, Kim?
Well, Irene suggests that we must take the Via train across Canada.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
One of your cousins has done that more than once.
Yes, she is taken it across. We've driven across
a few times,
a couple of times. Me once, and you've driven across like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Kim has taken. She's gone to workshops in Alberta a couple times, once with me and once without me. On the year off that we traveled in a camper van, that's where we started. We went, we were running late, typical Kim and Cal. So we drove from Toronto to Grand Prairie in 4 days, I think, which is like
insane for us.
10 days too short. Yeah.
And we missed the barbecue because we arrived too late in the evening.
But it is a majestic country, I have to say.
Oh.
We're so blessed to live in it.
Yeah. Lillian says to get on the seaplane to Salt Spring Island, you can only go with 25 pounds. All your creative finds need to be featherweight.
Wow.
Is there not a ferry that goes from the coast?
I would hope there was a ferry, because that 25 pounds sounds like enough food for me for one day.
It sounds like my clothing and toiletries. Joy says, you are amazing, Cal. We carry your spirit and inspiration across Canada and beyond.
Aww. Thank you.
That's so sweet. Wow. Irene says, I am so glad that you are in Ontario and available to us here. Grateful for both of you.
Well, and one of the reasons we haven't forsaken Ontario for the mountains, just trying to get my view better here, is because we know so many lovely people. There are lovely people everywhere. If you find, Kim and I have decided that no matter where you travel, if you can find the artists, you're home.
Yeah.
And we've,
so true.
Everywhere we've gone, since we sort of changed from being designers to being artists, we now seek out artists everywhere we go. It's like, okay, where are the galleries? Where are the studios? And those are where we have the beautiful connections and conversations, and that's,
yeah,
because you guys are the best, right?
Diane asks if you could give us an idea of what you're doing. I'm always interested in where he starts.
All right.
So you made a start on the pad, I see there.
So I have made a start, and that's really about all it is. I've started with again, and I think I started this way last week too, right? Yeah. With a plain color divided ground, sort of 1/3, 2/3 ish. And I thought, I'm going to look for some green and black and white diagram stuff and sort of make an analogous or monochromatic-ish palette piece. That's where I'm going to start. And I'll probably put a few pieces on this one and then put it aside and start another one, put another few pieces on it, start. And I'll probably do at least 3, because I find that always beneficial so I don't get obsessive about which one. That said, when I'm walking and chewing gum like I am now, I'm conversing, I'm answering questions, I only have so much of my attention on this, which can be a good thing. It means I don't worry too much, but it also means I sort of don't have cohesive thinking on it. So sometimes I'll just like, okay, I need to think about that, and I'll finish it after the jam. So, but I'm just cutting this piece out right now. I thought it'd be interesting, and I might watch this space. I might include some of the white space around it in an interesting way, if I can find one. Anything?
Well, I thought I'd just give you a few minutes to work.
She thought, I'll protect him and give him a little bit of time to think his own thoughts for a minute. Bless her.
Update you on comments. That has nice angles to it.
Yeah, the angles of this are great. Sort of what drew me to it.
Mm-hmm. Also, it has that lovely gradient in the middle shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is this actually within? Yeah, it is. Just barely.
It is.
It's a little small.
Disembodied hand into the. Yeah, so hold it up.
Yeah.
Before you cut it out, just so you can see exactly what you are cutting out.
So another one of these beautifully drawn illustrations, how to put a piece of cabinetry together. And I just love how well it's drawn and these gradations of, like, it's basically done by spacing the lines tighter and tighter and making them fatter and fatter and then skinnier over top of the green.
You put it even closer to the camera, they can see that better.
Yeah, sorry, there you go.
And that's a device you've probably used in illustrations. I know I have. So in this case, you're cutting off the labels that are on the illustration?
I am for the most part, although I am having a thought that I'm going to include some of it in this interesting way, which I'll show you in a minute, hopefully.
Right.
And in fact, I want to show you guys something that I just noticed. So these illustrations would have been drawn by someone, obviously, right? And this artist has a little device, stylized signature, which is very tiny, but it's on this piece, and I've sort of cut near it. So I'm going to try and bring it up close so you can see it. But you can see, no, you can't. Right there, down below the leg, it says Trojan. Oh, I can't seem to get it. There we go. Just above my finger there.
That's fun. Yeah. Those were the days of hand illustration.
Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't want to go back because computers can do so much, but every advancement has a cost, right? And there is nothing that is drawn, or very, you know, it's very bespoke now if something's drawn by hand, and it's, you know, hugely expensive to produce.
Because it's
and very
irreversible.
and very few people have those skills anymore. That said, lots of people don't have the skills to do it properly on a computer as well. You know, a computer is capable of amazing things, but you have to understand how to use it and what's important visually. So one of the problems nowadays, or the challenges, let's put it that way, is lots of people know the software, but they don't have necessarily the visual training because education is so expensive, right? So what do you need to know? You need to know how to work these programs. So people learn how to work the programs, but they don't get the visual training.
And programs change, but visual thinking.
Exactly. Yeah. So as Kim said, visual thinking, like understanding how color and value and texture and all these things interplay, is device and software independent, right? It's in here and in here, through here, and with these, but it's not built into the programs. So.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. So
the white shapes are neat.
So I kind of extended some of the lines from the piece of furniture, and I thought that would be kind of interesting. Now, how that's going to play exactly, I don't know.
There's so many options.
There are lots of options.
It needs to be a series.
So what I'll do is I will play with what kind of position looks interesting. This is sort of the most basic pedestrian kind of way, and then what if I line up something like that and put it at a bit of an angle?
A little more to the right. There we go. Now they can see it.
Yeah, sorry about that. There are always interesting ways in which one can position things.
Yeah, rotating's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's kind of fun right there because it's less expected.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll look at that, but I won't commit to anything yet. I'll sort of take it on board and then let it simmer in the back of my mind while I do something else, cutting something else there. This is kind of fun too. This kind of has a fun, almost geodesic kind of feeling to it. All right, the silence is killing me, Kim.
All right. It's agreed that you can take the ferry, that in fact there are 3 ferries.
Yeah.
From Vancouver to the island. I guess to Salt Spring.
Yeah.
What a cool thought. I think this is in response to the idea of traveling and finding the artists. She says, Irene says, artists are special people.
They are indeed, as we know, right?
And Lillian was interested in a running narration, which you switched to.
Okay,
so
good. Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And our friend David says hi.
Hello, David.
Finally caught you guys
Yay.
live. Very excited. Better late than never. David on.
Yes, I figured it was David on. How are you? Are you out riding your motorcycle? I guess maybe not, eh? Mask underneath the helmet? Not yet, maybe.
Irene says, great tip. I really like this suggestion on how to cut the diagram out from the found page. So important to compose and create your new composition with this diagram.
You know, it's funny, Irene. I started by I thought, I'll just cut it out. And then I just thought, well, if I just cut it out exactly as you would expect, that's be exactly what you expect. So I thought, oh, what if I extend the lines? So oftentimes I start out with something that is like oh yeah, that's sort of exactly what you'd expect. And then I sort of go off course into something a little more interesting.
Jane says, it's looking cool, Cal.
Thank you, Jane. And so have your neon creations. You've been really cooking. So just keep going, girl.
They look great.
Yeah, they look great. I also took a few pages of music, and it's a diagram, right? It is, you know, that's it's musical notation. So, I mean, in some ways, text is a diagram too, right? It's a representation of what syllabic sounds are that we.
It's not mapping it.
Yeah, you saw me pause. You saw the gears clicking.
The gerbils working hard.
Yeah, the gerbils are working hard and not getting me anywhere.
Françoise says, to get into diagrams, I looked up the topic communication and found some ideas for the diagrams representing different types of communication. Fun.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was gifted a roll of paper that I think is used by seismologists for.
Oh, is it pre-lined?
Yes, it's pre-lined, and the Earth's vibrations, tremblings,
does that little
get written on them.
Yeah.
Mapped on them, and it's just so there's a diagram as well of a different kind.
Kind of like an electrocardiogram of the Earth.
Yeah, that's right. Mia says, love music notes and collages. The notes dance on the page.
Yes.
And Jane says, thanks, guys. I love the prompts every week ahead of time because then my mind starts percolating and I can move on to cooking.
Yes, exactly. It means you're sort of arriving, you know, even if you haven't started on any diagram collage yet, it's been in the back of your mind, and if you're looking for materials, you can sort of look throughout the week. So let me cut out some of this IKEA one. It's kind of like the track light is speaking. It's got it isn't a voice bubble. It's meant to be a zoom in, but it's kind of fun Like it's saying, press me here. In fact, if I put it upside down, it really does look like a voice bubble. So there's the plan. Ha. And this way up, you see it's got a little I for information. I guess that's what it, no, maybe that's first. No, I think it is for information. But then when you flip it upside down, it's an exclamation mark, which I love.
That's great.
So I think I might have to include that as well.
Irene says, love the IKEA voice bubble.
Yeah, me too.
We have loads of those IKEA pamphlets. Zara says, hello, Cal and Kim. Have a great day and thanks.
Hi, Zara. Thank you so much for coming by. I take it that sounds like you might be heading out, but thank you so much for dropping by. Or if you're just saying hi and you're joining us, hello too.
Right, you told me I should put a link in the...
Yeah. So Kim is going to put a link in the comments to her virtual studio parties, which happen on Saturday afternoons, same time, 2 to 3:30. And while this one's focused on collage, obviously, duh, she does several different things. The last couple of weeks, she's been working on an altered book where she is using is it a world book?
Yeah.
A science annual or something from
supplement.
a science supplement to World Book from 1972. And she just flips through it, looks at a spread, and then starts making interventions either with collage or with drawing or with painting to turn it into something interesting, sort of half using what's there and half changing what's there. But in the past, she was doing some jelly plate prints, tongue-tied. And is there anything else you've been playing with in your...
I had Scratchboard.
Oh, yeah.
Which I might return to if I ever find the drawing.
Yeah, the Scratchboard was cool.
Yeah.
So it's a little more eclectic. It's sort of what she's finding interesting at the moment. And just as she mans the chat for me today, I man the chat for her on Saturdays. So come on out and have fun with that too.
Your thumbnail for this session is hilarious.
So if you think I'm just such a precise cutter, I just I guess my X-Acto is getting dull, but I just pulled it all bunched up, crumpled up. I'm just going to have to take advantage of that. It's the fact that it's IKEA crappy paper, and it's time to change the blade. Snap it off to get a new one. Anytime you're noticing your blade is not cutting cleanly, if it's sort of pulling the fibers along with it as you cut and the fibers are doing this, that's your heads up. It's time to change the blade. And I was ignoring it to my detriment. So now, mind you, this IKEA paper is just a step above loo roll. So
AKA toilet paper.
yes. You can tell we watch too much BBC stuff.
I would dispute it's too much, but
yeah, not too much. You can't have too much of that, but oh, and speaking of like electrocardiograms, this paper is tearing, you know, look at that edge. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Pretty great.
You can always back it up with something that contrasts with it if you're worried about not seeing it. Ruth says, hi there, joining late. Glad you could make it.
Yeah,
Ruth.
Ruth, welcome aboard. Still got plenty of time, so not to worry at all.
Irene says, thank you for showing us your mistakes as well. We all make mistakes.
We do all make mistakes. And I have learned that there are often opportunities in disguise. Now, when I was a younger man, they were just an opportunity to completely lose my temper and throw things and break things. But
You've mellowed.
But I've mellowed, yes, fortunately. And now I have come to realize that, like, the sort of, oh, darn, oh, actually, that's kind of cool. And the faster you can make that switch, the more interesting your work is, whether I think of all kinds of artwork benefit from that sort of as quickly as you can to reframe something.
I think that both your collage jam today on Mondays and my studio parties give you a peek into real studio practice with all the like attempts and wonderings. And
something that Kim says on her her Saturdays is that it's not a cooking show. She hasn't done it all before so that it all works perfectly, right? We try and demonstrate the way we think, the way we respond to opportunities and challenges. It doesn't always work out, and we're fine with that. You know, artistic process is about trying things that might not work. If you're always doing things that you know are going to work, then your gamut is pretty small.
And it's going to shrink.
And it's going to keep shrinking, right? Because if this is what you know you can do, but maybe everything that's in that, not all of it's interesting, so you sort of focus in on this part, and then you focus in on this part, and next thing you know, you're doing everything from A to B instead of A to Z. So,
or Z.
Or Z. Yes.
Mia says, some torn edges on collages add character in my amateur view.
Yes.
That's not an amateur
view. No, not an amateur view at all. It's one of the things I talk about a lot in my my teaching is a torn edge is often better. A torn edge and a cut edge, they look completely different, right? Here's a piece that has a bit of each.
Look how great they are together.
And the contrast of them together is also something I always try to think, okay, is this going to be better torn or better cut? And it just depends on what I'm trying to achieve.
That would be a great little collage, what you just held up.
This piece here?
Yeah, when it bisects the circle.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Seriously.
Okay, well that will be the beginning, so.
Yeah, okay. Marcia asks, how do you snap off the blade? Do you want to do a demonstration? I do.
So
have you got some masking tape?
I do. So these kind of knives, they're made by, you can get dollar store versions. I prefer the brand name ones. These are Olfa. I'm just seeing if I have an older one. This is the new design. The old one looks a little different, but they're more or less the same. And whether it's Olfa brand or other kinds, they all have some sort of a snapper at the end
that you have to pull off,
that you have to remove. So this one works by pinching these two parts so that the black part comes off. There. This one's an older one. It has a steel sort of clip that you use to clip it to your shirt or whatever, but that also comes off very easily. And it has a little slot in it, so maybe you can see that slot there. And this one has a slot the other direction,
going across the wood,
so you can see it there. And what you do is you extend the blade. The blade has diagonal pre-scorings on it, which you can see there. And so you extend it to be one scoring out. So just like that, one full scoring out. So you can see there's a diagonal line there. There we go. That shows it a little better. And then what you do is you put it down near your cutting mat. I'll bend this down for a second so you can see. I need space here. And you use the blade snapper, you slide it over, depending on which way it goes. This one would go on this way. This one would go on this way, but it goes into the slot so that this is what you've got here. Or conversely, with this snapper, you've got that. And then you snap it away from you, but you put it down on the table so that the piece doesn't go flying. And then you pull up like that. And you'll see I've snapped the piece off. And that means that the blade there now exposes. And I'll tell you, it's nice and sharp now. And
don't do what he just did.
Don't do what I just did. And so then the next step, so that you don't end up cutting yourself accidentally, is to pick up that piece with some masking tape and fold it up so that there are no dangerous edges, and then you can throw that away safely. I also, some of the, like Olfa and some of the other knife manufacturers make a little receptacle, like a plastic one that you can keep putting the snapped off blades into until it's full, and then you can tape that up and throw that out safely so that all those snapped off blades. One of the reasons I love these kinds of knives, though, is it is basically 10-ish knives in one, every blade, right? So you buy a package of 10 blades, it's 100 fresh sharp blades. Whereas the X-Acto type, you know, once that blade is dull, you have to take it out and put a new one in. So these, I think, are more environmental, more efficient.
And safer because you can retract.
And yeah, the retracting is really important. I still forget, but I try and make a habit of cut, retract, put it down. Cut, retract, put it down. Because leave it open, which I do sometimes, and then I'm feeling around for where my things are and I stab myself. So it's a danger.
Well, it's been busy in the chat.
All right. What have they been saying, Kim?
Irene is asking about paper. Can you make the paper stronger by painting acrylic medium on it first? She asks because she has lots of paper she's been thinking about using for art, since we need to be resourceful by finding whatever we can at home.
Right.
But some of this paper may be weak and not easy to cut with an X-Acto knife.
Right.
Well, a really sharp blade will cut through almost anything.
Yeah. So that there's a whole bunch of excellent things to talk about there, and I'll try and address them reasonably quickly. But first of all, the idea of reinforcing paper with acrylic medium, if you have some, it's a great idea. Because if the paper's really thin and it will take the medium without like disintegrating, like some tissue paper might be really hard to keep flat as you brush it on, but it's basically brushing plastic onto the paper, so it is going to make it stronger. And you can change the sheen too if you're using gloss or matte. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is, even if you've got paper that tears easily, and I have to say this, this sort of thin newsprint of this IKEA pamphlet is definitely that. Of course, I can't even, there we go. If you use a sharp angle down to cut, you're going to tear more likely. If you use a very oblique angle, you are more likely to get a nice clean cut. So I'll sort of exaggerate, and of course you can't see that because it's not in the, there we go. So this is more likely to tear. Now this one's so new, I just snapped it. It's actually doing a pretty darn good job, but not perfect.
It'll be easier doing it
but
the other way.
When I do it this way, nice and low, basically just slightly above horizontal angle, it's going to be nice and clean.
So much easier. You can see it glided
really
well.
Now, same sharpness of blade, you can actually, I'll hold this up, the strip, because you can still see the difference. I just need a dark piece. There we go. So the top edge is the cut with the
low angle.
This is the low angle cut, and then this is the high angle cut. So you can see it's got little burrs along it. It's pretty hard to make it out, but it does have these little tears, and that one's nice and clean. So So you can use either of those depending, like, oh, I want it to have a little distressedness, then yeah, use a higher angle. But when you want it clean, nice and low.
Rebecca says, I often think artists are just people willing to keep going after they fail. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Perseverance is a much more important trait than people realize.
You know, there are so many people capable of so much, and they get derailed by the fact that at first they don't succeed, right? And the adage is what, right? If first you don't succeed, try and try again. But if you don't try and try again, you don't find out. The first failure is just a learning experience, and
that's what they all are.
Yeah, they're all learning experience. Like the one that everyone references, but it's worth referencing, is Edison and his light bulb. I think he did it, hundreds of times. I think like 1,000 times or something before he got it right. And he just knew that he just needed to keep working at it.
And anybody who learned to ride a bike went through that. Yeah,
and I mean, some learning curves are more dangerous than others, right? I often marvel at, for instance, extreme sports athletes. That's a steep learning curve, right? When it's like, okay, I'm in hospital, but I'll go back and I'll.
There is no accomplishment without failed attempts, though.
No.
Yeah. I'll put failed in quotes, though. Slade asks, so
hey, Slade.
How do we get our 8-year-old granddaughter to appreciate her mistakes and not get angry? That's so hard.
Wow, yeah. You know, I think the biggest one, and I'm not a parent, you have to understand that, so I might be wrong, but I have a feeling that modeling it is the best thing. I learned, my parents said one thing and they did another, and in retrospect, I realized, oh, I really was aware of what they were doing rather than what they were saying.
Yeah.
For better and for worse sometimes. Like sometimes they said one thing and what they were doing was actually better, and sometimes it was the other way around. But, you know, if you're playing with them or making something with them and something goes wrong and you go, oh, darn. Oh, but that's actually kind of interesting. Just like I was doing here. Rather than, you know, a long string of expletives and storming off, then they sort of see, oh, that's how they go about it, right?
I've used my own mistakes as an opportunity to ask her questions about what we could do with what happened instead of what we had planned. Get her thinking about your mistakes as a problem-solving opportunity, an opportunity for creativity and invention, and then gradually move around to getting her to do the same process with her own mistakes.
Because that takes it one step removed from her, the things that she's really invested in, you know, and maybe her parents are, you know, lots of parents with the best of intentions are too worried, right? So the worry translates, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think what Kim's saying makes good sense to at least what I can imagine. You know, you have a problem and then you ask them and they're helping you with your problem. It's not theirs. I think that's actually quite brilliant. She should have been a mom, don't you think?
I was an auntie instead.
Yeah, Kim was an excellent auntie.
Cheryl says, I remember you using the phrase a happy accident. That's what you called it when several of us were in your class because the one we signed up for in Halliburton. Not exactly sure how that was supposed to be written. So happy that happened for me. Oh, I guess you got into a different class,
right? Yes,
than the one you wanted. Yeah.
Sometimes the universe, the world, whatever you want to call it, throws up all kinds of things, and if you can frame it like, as opposed to a problem that's happened to you, an opportunity, suddenly everything changes. I used to be very reactive as a young man and very prone to negativity. And somewhere I read some smart person saying, it's all in how you frame it. It is all in how you frame it. And I noticed that when I was able to reframe something to myself as, this is not a tragedy. In fact, it's not at all. This is a small thing. And in fact, what just happened is an opportunity to take it in a different direction or to learn something. Suddenly it's like weight off the shoulders. So
yeah.
Well, we're getting really philosophical. Eh?
Yeah. Rebecca suggested to Slade, model the failing and moving on yourself, and she will get there eventually.
Yeah.
That's certainly part of it, but I think taking it further to engage her in the thinking is really valuable, because then you're helping her develop the actual tools. The attitude comes from the modeling, but the tools to cope with it come from the questioning and getting it, engaging her in problem solving.
I found something really interesting when I met Kim and got to know her family. She has a family of engineers, and engineers are notorious for knowing the right way of doing things. But they're also, her family is very gentle. And my father, whenever he was with a problem, it was always cursing and throwing and tantrums. And Kim's cousins, when they were confronted with a problem, like they fixed their own cars and stuff like that.
They just collaborate.
They just like, they'd be standing there around and offering suggestions and talking about them. And it was all so calm. It was like, you're not upset about this? And they're like, no, we're just trying to figure out what the best way, like, there seems to be this problem and it seemed to be coming from this. And so and I was like, that was a revelation to me.
It's actively pleasant.
Yeah, it was enjoyable to problem solve, which was not the environment I grew up in at all.
Okay, Mia has a question for the end of today about both of our classes, whether it's necessary to have a camera on to participate, or is it possible to watch, learn, and submit assignments? So we can answer that at the end.
Okay.
Mia, if you just can remind us if we don't seem to be getting to it. Gunta, thanks for the demo. I was too chicken to ask how to snap the blade.
Oh, well, please ask questions. Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm happy to explain. I mean, I'm happy to explain anything I can manage to.
That's a foundational.
It is a foundational collage skill, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're always going to be a scissors or tearing person.
Yeah, but it's good to have all the possibilities.
Yeah. I've lost the cap of my. And I need to retract my blade.
We should invent a leash for those caps.
Yes.
You know, like a lens cap.
Like a lens cap, yeah.
Yeah. Joy asks, besides ripping paper, how to create texture?
Well, there are many options. So the ones that come to mind first are finding textural material. And some papers are very, very smooth. And that seems to be mostly what I have today.
But there's so much you can do with smooth paper.
Yeah. You can go looking for actual textured paper, right? Places like the Japanese paper place and many other places have interesting textured papers.
Corrugated cardboard.
Corrugated cardboard, peel off one layer and it's got that nice wavy. You can scrunch things up, right? You can
fold them too.
This will give it a more random kind of feeling, and I can then sort of flatten it out somewhat, but then if I glue it down in a few spots, but not all the spots, now that means you're going to have a depth to your work, but that could be interesting.
Well, that is texture.
Yeah. And something I like playing with, especially with magazine images for some reason, I like doing sort of an accordion fold to either usually shorten them to make them interesting. So I'll do things like this where it's a bit of a gluing trick. But so you end up with having this sort of compressed kind of a feeling. But I glue each one of these layers to it, and it sort of builds up, and that can be an interesting thing. That's not the perfect example of it, but the ripped edges definitely give you texture. If you're looking for depth, sometimes you can slip something like a mat board or something so that it actually raises it off the bottom of the page a little bit, which gives it depth. That's not necessarily texture, but Kim.
Different edges too. There are these craft scissors that have different designs that you can cut the edges of paper with, which can be really, really fun. And you can, you know, lay one layer on top of another layer on top of another layer with little offsets, and you'll get this rhythm of like serrations, but patterned serrations. So it's quite interesting. One day we'll get some of those scissors in here.
I thought we had some of them.
No.
You know what it is. I'm remembering a class that a student had them, and
and you think we have
and I'm thinking we have them.
Yeah.
It's actually rare that we don't have something of that nature, because Kim is an inveterate tool hunter.
Yeah. Well, I don't have all the tools, Cal. Try as I may.
We're doing pretty well.
Lillian asks, when would you use scissors?
I'm just going to get this glued down, and then I'll
mention something about
Oh,
it.
yeah, please do, Kim.
So some people are highly skilled with scissors, and, you know, in East Asia, there's a massive paper cutting tradition where kids in kindergarten are taught to cut paper to make illustrations using sharp scissors, none of these blunt nose scissors. And as a result, they grow up with fantastic motor skills and cutting skills. So you can do that. You can look up Chinese paper cutting and just Google that and see the images. The other thing is, and I find this kind of fun, is to take a pair of scissors, sometimes a too large pair of scissors for the size of shape I'm going to cut. And the scissors give me a sharp edge, but I purposely lose some control, so I get a wonky shape but a sharp edge. And that's where I would use scissors rather than a knife.
Right, because you can sometimes having a tool that fights you a little bit actually will give you more character, and less control but more beauty. There's kind of this interesting paradox, right?
Because perfect can be pretty.
Perfect can be so pretty and predictable and boring, right? Not exquisite, not divine, I guess.
Yeah.
There's I've shown it in my classes a few times. I'm a big fan of of Jack White and his previous band, the White Stripes. And something I love about, I'm not a musician. I'm just a consumer. But one of the things I love is he doesn't worry too much about tuning his guitar, which drives purists insane. But he did this. If you Google on Jack White makes a guitar, you'll see this clip from a movie called It Might Get Loud. And he is making a guitar out of a scrap of wood, a string, and a Coke bottle, and then a little pickup for his amplifier. And then he plays this thing with a slide, and it's one string and a couple of nails and a Coke bottle. And he makes these amazing sounds out
Musical.
of it. Yeah. And he says, who says you need to buy a guitar? And I love that sort of can do, doesn't have to be fancy to be great.
Because it's all what you do with it.
Yeah, it's all what you do with it. Exactly.
So Irene offers some more suggestions on the granddaughter. I'll just move along from that. She adds, I like how Cal is starting another mini collage, another ground, simple start. Do you work in series?
I like series, definitely.
I think you kind of do.
Okay. I was trying to decide, and so Kim, I always see the it depends part, and Kim can say no, you do. So we'll let her say that. I do like to work in more than one, and sometimes they end up. I glued it on the wrong side. Oh, okay, so it's going to be this way.
Yeah. See, there's that mistake thing.
Yeah, it was going to be this side.
Yeah.
I glued the wrong side because I'm walking and chewing gum.
But that looks cool too.
But it looks good too. It's just going to create some new problems and new opportunities, right? So
that's the spirit, dear.
That is the spirit. So yes, I like to work in series. I think the thing that I love about series is, for instance, start with a ground like this. I can see many possibilities for what might happen on this. And so I like to be able to not have all my eggs in one basket. So I'll make a few of these that are different, but similar in many respects. So I can, oh, okay, I like that idea, but everything isn't invested in that one because I also have this one in which I could try something else and this one. So it allows me to not be too precious, and it also allows me to explore, because we all have more than one idea about what things might happen, right? So that allows me to try them all, or try more of them.
9-minute warning.
9-minute warning. I've got like 3 pieces of paper glued down. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm up to 6, guys.
You cut that one out.
Yeah, I did cut that one out. Okay, wow, yeah. So
I'm just going to add something to the series thing, because I think sometimes when you're working, you don't realize that you're at the start of a series, right?
Yeah.
You're just making something,
yeah.
and it may or may not become a part of a series. Some things are interesting dead ends, and some things grow into a series.
I think a series is about sometimes, especially when people are starting out, they want to paint a picture of the lake with the sun on it, and then they want to paint a barn, and then they want to do a this, and it's more about subject. Whereas I find now, I've been doing art for quite a while, when I make a discovery, I want to explore it more deeply. So I don't get, I find exploring within that narrower range quite satisfying. So it just depends on where you're at, and also your nature. I've there is a common wisdom that, and I'm always a little skeptical of common wisdom, that series are the way to go. They're the way you explore more deeply. They're the way that you find out how far you can go, and so on. And that's all true. But there are some of us who we need to do new things. So
sometimes that's a stage you're at in your work, that when you're not able to pursue series, you don't find it naturally calling to you. And so you're more of a, you like to belly up to the buffet, and every time you're eating something new. Joy says it's all part of our journey.
Exactly.
Irene suggests using a paper crimper to turn your paper into textured paper.
Right. Yes, I've seen those. Really, you can crank them, and they do this amazing.
Really small accordion.
Yeah. That's a great idea, Irene.
And that's what Joy says. That's a great idea, accordion style. Lillian says her Henkel's kitchen shears cut with a cool edge, like little cuts.
Oh, yeah. Kim and I often find that tools we find outside of the art store, quote unquote, are quite interesting at Home Depot or kitchen stores. Kitchen stores, they can be quite expensive, and hardware stores too. Though. But it depends, and dollar stores, right? So, go shopping in the non-art stores and with an art mindset, and you'll say, "Ooh, I could use that. I could use that."
Joy says, that's a great attitude. I love it. Now, this is interesting. I think this opens up a topic for discussion. Well, I did a series of 3, Jane says, I did a series of 3 diagrams, but each one is completely different. I guess it's not a series?
So...
There's just so much there,
yeah,
right?
there is. Yeah, where to start? But a series can be very tenuously linked together, only slightly, or it can be very, very similar. Kim and I have gone to the occasional show of artwork where we walked in, and the first couple of pieces we've seen, we've been like, oh, this is going to be a great show. I love this. Look at all this. And then by the time we've looked at number 7, it's like, these are like very minor variations on basically the same painting or the same piece of art.
Which is a big yawn.
And that is a real disappointment. It's like, but for us, I will hasten to add, for us, everyone's got their own standard, but this person has like explored a very narrow range. So maybe the palette and the marks and the basic, maybe even the composition and the colors are all very similar. And for me, that's not enough. I need more latitude. A series may also be very, very like, it always has this one little kind of mark in it and everything else is different, right? It's kind of like that Where's Waldo thing is the thing that connects them. And that's really, really tenuous, but maybe enough. So most of us find our place somewhere between those 2 extremes I've just described. But a series is also good for the artist, I think, and good for the viewer, because the viewer, if they see connections from one thing to a next, but also variation from one thing to the next, that's a kind of a sweet place to play. Think about nowadays. Well, yeah, they still an album, a really great seminal album. It's a set of songs that hang together that are a snapshot of a time for that artist. Yeah, a record. Remember LPs, but CDs, whatever. It's a set of several songs, and if they all sound too similar, it's like, oh, that's not enough. But if they sound like completely different artists, it's like it's a mixtape, right? But if it's like, oh, the same artist does all these, exports these different things. This one sounds different than this one. That one's loud. This one's soft. This one has this one's a lot of pieces. This one, it makes it interesting, and you notice connections and differences. So.
There you go. Let's see. Mia says this might have been mentioned already. So about texture, the wavy stuff from cardboard boxes. So those are the corrugations. Yeah. Makes nice texture, as well as cheesecloth, which brings in the whole realm of textiles.
Yes, and I can't believe I didn't talk about fabric, because of course you can glue fabric, right? You might, depending on how heavy it is, you might want to stray away from glue stick and more towards something like gel medium to glue it down with. But absolutely, fabric is a great way to bring all kinds of texture in. Everything from really, really fine, like 300 thread count or 600 thread count, to something like really coarse, like burlap, or something that has nubbly stuff like upholstery fabric. So many options there. And
then there are all the rubber and plastic things that you can, like shelf liner that has textures, and rubber matting that isn't too thick for the substrate that you're working on. There's so many things like that. Mia adds, series are good. It's like a story.
Yes, exactly. They're like different chapters in the same story, or different pages in the same story.
That's nice, Cal.
You like that?
So many great possibilities, eh? Did you try it horizontally from the left edge?
Like that?
Yeah.
Not yet. It's kind of fun. Going to the center.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm just like, I cut out this leg. Of course, you can't see it very well on that. So when I show it on this, I cut one side out and I've left the other side. So I'm just playing with that as an option. It's kind of fun where it might go. Playing with different alignments, different angles. Got a few different angles in this piece, which it feels like being in dialogue with that somehow would be useful. I am tempted towards the vertical in this case, I think. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be right side up. Kind of like the right side up for the white, but not for the fact.
Did you try it upside down off the little blue tail?
Upside down off
Vertical.
the blue tail. There. It's kind of fun.
Or beside the blue tail. Yeah.
That's kind of fun. It sort of plays up the white in part of it
Yeah.
and not in others, which is kind of fun. Sort of disappears up here and is strong in there, so that's kind of fun. Would that still happen here if I did that? Sort of, and sort of not.
On that side, it's sort of a question of spacing. Like
This
how
side?
much gap? Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough gap to matter. And
Here, I mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's fun. Fun lineups, but not in the right place compositionally.
Want to just say a few words about alignments?
Yeah, that's a good point, Kim. So for some reason, I've found myself spending a lot of time figuring where or thinking about where I want to put this piece. And as a designer, I tend to think about alignments of things. So, for instance, you notice the dark edge at the bottom. I was thinking, oh, maybe I should align it off that edge. It's getting away on me here. Working vertically. So there's an option. And then I notice, oh, the foot of it's also at the top up here is aligning with the edge of the blue. But then I'm also thinking aligning down at the bottom and maybe aligning with that far edge there. When things line up visually, it creates a certain degree of order. And this is a way that a designer creates a certain degree of order in a layout. So, but you also need things that have some dynamism too, right? So when things don't align or are more sprinkled kind of feeling, then it creates more dynamism. And so it's always a balance of how much of each. But I do look for interesting alignments a fair bit when I'm composing.
Because order and disorder are tools in composition.
Yeah. And too much disorder and everything is just like, whoa, right? And too much order is stultifying from being too regular and predictable. But a bit of each, and exactly how much of each depends on the piece and the artist. But I find that balance good. So I will sometimes make a composition that is like way too static, and then, okay, I need to throw some more random stuff in. Or if I get some interesting chaos going on, I'll be like, okay, but it needs some sort of rectangular things that add some predictability and some stability. So
just let you know that it's now 3:34. So
3:34. So we'll probably go another few more minutes. But obviously, I'm not going to get these done. But we'll see. We'll see where they end up going on the Facebook group.
And at the end, you'll show your signs.
I'll show the signs again for those of you who missed it at the beginning.
And we'll talk about the question about classes too.
Right. It's a good thing she's remembering all this. Did you jot those down, Kim?
No, it's just my job right now.
Yeah. She's holding them all in her brain. You tell that's how you know it's not me. I'd be writing it down or it would be gone.
Irene says, or do you need a moment?
No, I'm good.
I am also thinking of adding collage to a painting I made that needs something more. Have you ever done that?
So I have done some combinations of paint and collage, definitely. I think a lot of painters do paintings and then they will add in some collage sort of as an afterthought, or to bring in, again, that sort of fresh something that isn't paint. I tend to be, I think, whichever works. I do a lot of painting that is just painting, especially my airbrush paintings, or, it's mostly airbrush and masked stuff and the occasional brush stuff. And I have done some mixed media stuff where I am flowing back and forth between paint and collage. But it tends to be, I think it's
part of the development.
Yeah, it's there from the beginning. It is. So I rarely sort of do a collage and think, okay, all this needs is a bit of paint, because I like pure collage, and I don't do very many paintings that, okay, I just need to collage a couple of things on. But I do some collage paintings, mixed media things that have both, and they're sort of finding their way, and I'm using whichever it needs. So I guess I have both the ends and then something that sits in the middle, whereas not so much of the things in between, like almost all paint but with a little bit of collage, or almost all collage but with a little bit of paint.
But some people do work like
that. And it is. So that's me, right? And it may change, right?
Mia loves your page there. She says the colors are yummy.
Yeah, there's something nice about this sort of really pale yellow. And the blue is quite strong, but the green is kind of slightly subdued, which I kind of like. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering about maybe introducing, there's this, also from the Popular Mechanics, this lovely sort of rusty color. And I'm thinking that,
like terracotta.
Yeah, sort of a terracotta-ish color. And I'm thinking that might not be too much. I think that might be nice. Yeah, she says yes. So.
Totally. Joy says, great ideas. I'm thinking differently already. Lots of possibilities, like Kim said.
Yeah. Something I am very big on is possibilities. If you've taken my courses, in the past, if anything, that's the thing that drives people crazy, is that I don't say, thou shalt this, thou shalt that, thou shalt. I try and say open doors rather than close them for people. And if people want, I just want to be able to like not have, have some doors closed. I do that sometimes. I will say, how about we just focus on this? But I'm more about possibilities, because
that's where the fun is.
That's where the fun is, yeah.
Irene says the table leg diagram is very different colors from your ground. The contrast in colors could work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Jane says, I'm going to check out now so I can go for a walk in this gorgeous weather.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cal and Kim.
Thanks, Jane, for coming by.
We'll look forward to hearing next week's prompt, and we'll post my work later.
Yes, and so last week I had the prompt ready at the end of for next week. I haven't figured out what it's going to be, but I will email it to the group, and I will also post it on the Facebook group. So if you have joined the Facebook group and are here, but you haven't given me your email, you can email me via my website. But that said, I am posting it on the Facebook groups too. So whichever, it'll probably be in the next day or so. Figure out what that is, and we'll go with that. And okay, these still need some work. I don't know where they're going yet, but
Joy says,
underway.
looking forward.
Yeah, likewise, Joy. So there was
Ruth
a
has a
question.
question
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Before we get
Yep,
to the.
yep.
What about painting a background with acrylic? I just did a painting which I don't love that much, abstract. So now I'm using it as a ground for a collage.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that at all. There are lots of artists, especially, well, I was going to say especially in the pop era, but all eras, that blend paint and collage quite fluidly. So definitely, why not, right? Something else that people do a lot is use usually paintings on paper and tear them up or cut them up if they didn't work out so well, and use those as collage things. Oh, I can, put this part of it in the blue pile and this part in the green pile, or they cut it up in interesting ways and use that as starting points as well. But we had any other questions?
Kathleen says thanks to both of you.
Yeah,
for a
thank you,
wonderful session.
Kathleen. Yeah.
So let's get to our wrap-up stuff.
Yeah, so
which, first of all, about our courses, I certainly have one or two students who do not have their cameras on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of them, actually maybe three, sometimes we share work during the class, and some of them will turn their camera on briefly to share their work and then turn it off. But that's up to you. Yeah,
I mean, I have a couple of people who prefer to lurk. They don't actually talk, but they show up for the lesson. They take it in. They go away and do the work. They'll sometimes even share their work with me via email and so on. But so it's not a necessity. I kind of like having the eye contact, but it's not a necessity. I can certainly do it without. Sometimes in both of our classes, especially in a big class. Yeah, especially in a big class. But just like I've been doing this for you occasionally, sometimes people will say, Cal, what do you think about this? I was wondering about what this should be. And so that's a really beneficial thing. But you can always just turn the camera on for that aspect and then turn it off again, if that's desirable. And you can hide behind your work if you don't want to share how you look or how your place looks, right? Just make sure your work is filling the frame. And then the other, there's some more comments. Okay. Thanks to both of you, very inspiring. Irene, Ruth, thanks. I feel inspired again. Oh, good. Yay, Ruth. Great. Yeah, that's our goal, right? Community, inspiration, a place to play together, a little reprieve from all the negativity out there. Philippa says, I love watching you work and listening to the chat. I've been both painting or collaging all week as a result of your jams. Smile. Oh, Philippa, that makes I think you mentioned that in one of your comments, and I replied back. That makes me so happy, because if this sends you away energized to make art, that's that's my best possible outcome. So yeah. Adele says, thanks. It was fun. Oh, thank you, Adele. Yes, it has been fun. This will make you laugh. Linda says, thanks so much. I love how orderly your workspace is. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. Yes. And Kim has threatened me with death if I do it again. But if I were to walk the camera around our house, you would soon come to realize that this is the YouTube land. This is the YouTube, about over to there, and about over to there, and about up to there, and about down to there is about what we can show you. Yeah. Because we're two artists making a lot of work, always having a lot of work, always too busy. So the vacuum doesn't come out nearly often enough. There's artwork everywhere.
one show hasn't been
Yeah,
completely packed
exactly.
up before
Yeah.
the next
So,
one's
yeah,
heading out.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
So,
It's crazy.
yeah. But there were a couple of questions about, was there a question about upcoming courses, or was that it?
No, that was the
okay. All
question
right.
about
Yeah.
course. And here Mia says course camera issue. Thank you for answering my questions, and thank you both for another fantastical Monday.
Oh, good. Yay.
Winnie, thanks for
Winnie. Thanks for coming by.
Bye for now. Françoise asks, can you show us the green one before you go?
Yes. So I haven't really got anywhere on the green one, although it's the one I'm sort of excited about. And I haven't really decided where. I kind of like, this is a little more predictable in some ways, but I kind of like it. I also like it sort of up here somewhere, sort of aligning off one of these edges.
Yeah.
Like that. So that one's in the gestational stage. And it might actually be more interesting on the black, I think, because it is green already, but we'll see. That's kind of fun. So I'm going to play with that.
Is disproportion. Thank you for this evening.
Yes. I am very finely tuned to proportion and alignments and spacing. And that's just in my DNA now because I've been a graphic designer for so many years. So I enjoy playing with that. But there's also this fact that you can bring pieces from so many different places. And that thing I was talking about being too precise, I will often then look down at my desk and find like where things have fallen. And I look at them and I think, oh, I have to take a picture of that. Or maybe I should like cut those out and collage them. Because paradoxically, sometimes the more you focus on it, the more you think about it, the more you worry about it, the more attention you give it, the less interesting it looks. And sometimes the more happenstance, the better. So that's my journey as an artist, right? Is to sort of reconcile those two. Okay, so just before we wrap, a couple of people have been asking about the signs I had mentioned earlier. So what I'm going to show you here are letter-sized PDFs of some some signs to say thank you to the people who are helping us survive COVID. Risking their health and their lives, or for us, right? And
flip to the next one.
So what I've done here is I've made these signs, and they're free downloads. They're letter size, so you can print them out on your printer at home, and you can put them in your windows. Of course, medical people are at the top of the list, but what would happen if we didn't have drinking water or our internet? Oh my God, if I didn't have the internet, I would be so off the dial right now. Garbage, repairs, repair people, power, deliveries. We're getting so many deliveries now, as many deliveries as we can possibly manage, just because it saves us going out. We still have to eat, so farmers are still doing their jobs, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm always grateful for that, but never more so than now. When people who get that farmed food to us, make sure they get it to us, make sure the shelves are stocked, make sure we can buy it from them. They're frontline workers now. They're getting paid way too little for what they're doing. And postal workers. So these are all free if you go on my website under gallery, it's the first page under that. They're all free downloads. You can print them out, put them up wherever you like. There's a hashtag, which I can't remember off the top of my head. What I'd love you to do is take pictures of where you've posted these and share them on social media using the hashtag.
Hashtag is
COVID thank you signs. COVID thank you signs. And that hashtag is on the webpage with these, so you don't have to remember it. You can just go to the webpage that has this on my website. And just share them with all your friends. They're totally free. I want them to spread far and wide so that these people who are being heroes for us know that we're appreciating them. So those of you who missed that little run on this, talk about the signs, that's what those are. So I'm going to put a few of these in our windows now, and I'll take pictures of them and post them. Our scary windows that haven't been cleaned in how long, we don't want to know.
Wow.
But I'm going to post them anyway.
Yep.
And I hope you do too, and share that COVID thank you signs hashtag, and then we'll be able to look and see what other people are doing. So anyway, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll have a prompt for the coming week in the next couple of days, and post your collages on Diagram in our private Facebook group. If you haven't joined us yet, go to Cal Honey Art, all 3 words, on Facebook, and look for the Virtual Collage Jam private Facebook group. You have to ask me if you can join. I will check and let you in, and then you can post and share there. I think that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe. I'm going to let Kim wrap up with the comments, but I'm over and out. See ya.